Hello, property nomads. Hope you're well. There is another crisis on our hands, a housing crisis. This time it is over in the EU. We're going to touch upon that and have a look at an article in a minute. But before we get into today's episode, just to let you know that our friends over at Progressive Property are conducting their 3-day multiple streams of property income. It's their flagship event. Aaron and I have attended it so many times. It's absolutely fantastic. Great if you're looking to get started in property. Fantastic if you need a refresher on certain strategies, and also wonderful for networking as well. It's completely free to attend, so you might as well. It is Friday the 20th to Sunday the 22nd of October 2023. Free to attend. The link is in the show notes, and it will be held at Progressive HQ, which is in Peterborough, which is about an hour north of London. As we said, if you listen to this on podcast, the link is in the show notes. If you're watching this on YouTube, the link is in the description below. Friday the 20th to Sunday the 22nd of October. It's a great 3 days of property training. Now, we mentioned a crisis, and I say that in those bunny ears. And this is an article that's come from France 24, and it leads with the title, "Inflated Rents, High Interest Rates and Lack of Supply Create European Housing Crisis." And I would argue that this is not just in Europe, that this is also happening here in the UK as well, and in other places worldwide. But it's an interesting article to go through. It starts by saying that, yes, soaring costs across the EU are pricing out renters. They're deterring prospective buyers, preventing new homes from being built. Yes, there's also a lot of economic conditions as well that go with this that don't help. Of course, they have to label it as a crisis, so it gets people listening, just like we've done with this episode. It's a crisis, so we get more people listening. The article talks about homelessness as well, and it also asks the question, what are the solutions to Europe's housing crisis? It focuses in on Paris. So the French capital is now the second most expensive city in the EU. Believe it or not, behind Dublin. And in Paris, it's 28.5 euros per square metre per month, which is second highest in Europe. Not good. A lot of people still living with their parents, 10% increase in the last 5 years. Rents in Paris, Berlin, Lisbon have reached unprecedented highs. Interest rates and mortgages have also risen across the bloc. This drives up costs for homeowners with variable rate mortgages and prices out many potential buyers altogether. Now, if you're listening to this, you probably realize that sounds very familiar to what we've got in the UK, and that's exactly what's happening. And all of this is government responses to the pandemic from a couple of years ago. It's not the fact that it came along. Yes, it took most people off guard. It's the government's response to everything that has led us to where we are today. Just to recap, here in the UK, furlough schemes, a bunch of currency being printed out by Bank of England, paying people to sit around and do nothing. And that has now started to catch up. As a result of that, interest rates have increased and the cycle continues. We've had our first wave of inflation. We're now going to go through a second wave of inflation, and we're going to go through probably, I imagine, a third wave of inflation moving forwards. So this crisis, it's going to be around for a while. And as we said time and time again on Property Nomads, the demand for housing, certainly here at home, the demand for housing is much higher than the supply of housing. That is going to be the case for a very, very long time. So therefore, prices are, on average, going to continue to go up because it's economics 101. We've done an episode a bit more in depth on that a little while ago. Do go and check it out. Back to the article. It says in the Paris region, property sales fell 23% in the second trimester of 2023. People have been unable to buy because of high interest rates. Large numbers of aspiring homeowners are now putting extra pressure on the strained rental market. Again, demand higher than supply. Voila. Prices go up. It is what it is. And it's good to see that it's not just the UK that has fundamental structural issues when it comes down to housing as well. The article just goes on and just whacks out a few more statistics. It highlights the pandemic. It highlights a European energy crisis. And again, the funny thing is because it's mainstream media, it says it was prompted by war in Ukraine. No, it wasn't. It was prompted by the response to those very events happening. Please do not continue to blame Russia for the rest of the EU situation. It's your own government that has got you into this mess. I would love to say it's your own government that's going to get you out of this mess, but that is not going to be the case. Please do not buy into the mainstream media narrative. Going through the article again, it does say that overall there is a lack of supply for homes. Again, it touches on the same economic conditions that we've just said at the start of this episode. And again, because of the rising costs of everything, because of inflation, because of government responses to various things over the last couple of years, we're now in this quandary, and it is not. It might get better, but it's going to get a lot worse before it gets any better. And of course, people throw all their toys out the pram, but they'll also put all the eggs in the same basket and go pleading to government and say, "Oh, government, please help me. Help us get out of this mess." And trust me, they have not got your best interests at heart. The article just keeps going on and on and on. It basically saying that politics, they need to get more politics involved. They need to have more social housing strategies and bits and pieces like that. All the things that are, they're not really short-term fixes. Are they long-term fixes? Chances are they're probably not long-term fixes either. In a nutshell, it's good to see that it's not just the UK that has these same issues. There are other countries, in this particular case, France, because that's where the article is from, that have similar structural issues when it comes to housing in their own countries. And the reason why they have them is because demand is higher than supply, loads of other economic factors involved as well. And ultimately, the government got themselves into this mess and got you into this mess. And the same people are then going to try and ask the government to get themselves out of this mess. That is not going to happen. Demand is going to be much higher than supply for a very, 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 very long time. Economics 101 when it comes down to housing. As we mentioned at the start of the episode, our friends at Progressive, 3-day event, multiple streams of property income. It's great to get started in property, great for networking, and a great refresher should you see fit that you need a refresher. It's in Peterborough. The link is in the description on YouTube, and if you listen to this as a podcast, it is in the show notes as well. Enjoy the event. It is an absolute cracker. We've been loads of times. I'll see you in the next episode.